New Zealanders are expected to pass down a massive $1.6 trillion in inheritance over the next 25 years. And with this week's Wills Week approaching, Public Trust is encouraging people to consider leaving a little bit of it to charity. At the moment, just 1.3% of inheritance actually go to charities around the country, well behind countries like the US and the UK. But there's big potential. Kiwis already donate about $320 million a year through wills, and Public Trust believes that number could explode if more people made a conscious choice to include a gift. About 7% of wills written with them in recent years include a charitable bequest. Now, the average donation is around $800. Health, ambulance services and animal charities top the list. Women are leading the way. Go girls, especially aged 18 to 35, who have shown a big jump in charitable giving. And the biggest contributors overall, people in their 60s and 70s. Half of adult New Zealanders now have a will, and online will making is also on the rise. 70% actually is done digitally through Public Trust. General Manager, Retail at Public Trust is Vanessa Dudley, and she joins me now. Vanessa, a very good afternoon to you. Good
afternoon. How are you?
Hey, I'm really good. I was talking to my producer in the break about, we were going to talk to you about wills, and I had to think this morning about the will my husband and I wrote up years ago, and I said to him, we've left some money to the SPCA, haven't we? And he's like, yeah, I think we have. I said, how much? He goes, oh, I don't remember. So we have, and I know it's in there, but I thought, great, I better go back and check, because it was done, it was done years ago, Vanessa, as things always are.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, let's move on with this. We're heading into Wills Week. This is an opportune time to look at encouraging those people to consider leaving something to a charity in their will. The report says only 1.3% of inheritances currently go to charity, so there's room for improvement, is there not?
There is, and funnily enough, we actually, well, we don't do too badly, but we are kind of trailing the rest of the world when it comes to putting something in your will. But we kind of trailblaze when we're alive, when we're living. We do tend to give quite generously, actually, as a community when we're alive.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we sort of forget about that and don't put it in our wills.
Do you think why do you think that, actually, Vanessa? Why do you think more Kiwis don't leave a bequest? Is it just, as you said, we're very charitable as a nation. We'll give while we're alive what we can, but is it something that just hasn't been talked about, or we think about it?
I think so. I think we just it's just part of our DNA to be charitable and to give to our communities, that we probably don't think too much about it. And we kind of, maybe we overlook it when it comes time to write our wills. We need more of us to write wills. That's the first thing, I suppose, because some of us don't have a will. So doing one in the first place, and then thinking about, really sitting down and thinking about, how might you want to think about leaving your legacy behind. And there's all manners of way of doing that, but we do forget, I think, about the ones you talked about, the healthcare and the SPCAs. They tend to come to the top, blind, low vision, some of those, but there are many other ways that New Zealanders contribute, as I say, when we're living.
You've seen the impact firsthand, I can imagine. What kinds of things do these gifts or legacies help fund in the community?
Well, they're far-reaching. I mean, as you mentioned, you've got the SPCA there, it's one close to your heart, one close to mine as well. A bit of an animal lover. Yeah. But then there are also, things that have come about more recently. We've seen quite a number of the food banks close their doors in recent times. It's just been such a tough time for them. Yeah. So, some people have been giving to those while they've been, living, but they don't exist anymore in some cases. They've, had to go and find other means. Funding's quite tight. Yeah. But then you also get people who leave their entire estate to charitable causes, and then that's amazing. And we've got some great stories that we look after, a number of those at Public Trust, where the income from those estates are actually generated and give back to the communities with which they operate in. So, and often they're through the Rotary Club or things like that, who help us make sure that their contribution goes to the right places.
What is a philanthropist?
That's a great question.
I saw this in the report. What's a philanthropist?
Oh, I haven't heard that. What does it say? You tell me.
Yeah, no, I just saw it. I was obviously, well, we know what a philanthropist is, so maybe it's people that do the same with a will, or
I would say, people who, I would say it's about the giving, definitely, and making sure that they put that in their will and they document that. Because there's three types of ways that you can bequest or give, and they've got some funny names, but you can either say, here's a set amount of money, here's a dollar value that I'm actually going to set aside, and if you don't revisit your will, sounds a bit like you, Leah. If you don't revisit your will frequently, sometimes it might be a little bit out of date, but it can be a fixed sum. You could also designate a particular percentage of your estate. Yes. And so that just ends up being whatever the value is on at that time.
I think that's what we've done.
Or you could leave. Yeah, there you go. So you can kind of stay a bit more more modern with it. Yes. Or you could leave a specific gift, which is a particular item or a particular. Sometimes it's a share portfolio is the gift because it generates an income.
Okay, right.
So there's lots of different ways of doing it. And I would say a philanthropist
would be one of them.
Someone that would give one in one of those. There you go.
But she's thinking on her feet. Sorry about that. Vanessa, is there a mindset that maybe only wealthy people leave money to charity in their wills, or they're the only ones that can?
Look, I think that potentially that is true.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot in my time at Public Trust, and that myth's been busted for me. That's for sure. My children are slowly getting older, as most people grow up. My kids are in their early 20s now, and the rule of thumb really is if you've got $15,000 or assets of $15,000, then you really should be thinking about having a will. Now, that might sound like a lot of cash just sitting there, but if you're like a student who has gone to university and has had to work to put yourself through university, you may well have an amount of money that you probably aren't even aware you've got sitting in your KiwiSaver.
Yeah, right.
You might have a vehicle. That's got a certain value associated to it. And once you hit that $15,000, you really do need to be thinking about what I want with that to happen. Should I pass?
Yes.
It isn't always about dollars though either. I mean, you might have a special family treasure. You might have some pets. You may even want to think about what you want your funeral to be like. Those are all the types of things you can include in your will. It isn't just about moolah or money.
Interesting. Actually, because I think we had two dogs when we wrote this. Is proving that when we wrote the will, we had two dogs. Sadly, we're down to one. But we left money in the will for them. We named a person who we had to have a conversation with them and said, would you take the dogs? We didn't just name someone and they suddenly got two dogs. And we said, and they're like, I would absolutely take them. We love them. And I said, well, we'll leave you some money to look after them should we both go and whatever. And they were like, oh my gosh, really? And I said, yeah, I mean, they're expensive animal. I mean, pets can be expensive. So anyway,
they can be.
I was telling our friends, I said, we've all drawn up our will. Gosh, it was really interesting and quite weird at the same time. I remember sitting there at our lawyers and of course they had to have the conversation like, should your husband die, Leah, before you? And there was a lot of death talk, but it was necessary, obviously. So it was quite strange to start with. But when we got to the dogs, I said, look, where this person said they'll take them and we want to leave them X amount of money. And they're like, and I thought it was quite a bit. And they just wrote it down, right? And I went, oh, didn't even flinch. Is that quite common? And she went, oh, yes. Leah, you have no idea whether all pets you have no idea how much money's left in wills for pets. I said, okay. And then they went, and yes, yours is quite generous, but nowhere near what we've seen. I went, okay. All right, that was it. She obviously wouldn't go into detail, but so pets feature a lot in wills, Vanessa, is what I found.
They do. But you know what I love about what you just shared with me then is that you were talking about it. So you were talking about it with the people that we wanting to give your pets, take care of your pets. I think that's the biggest misnomer is it's some big dark secret that we've written our will. And what you don't want is you don't really want for it to be a surprise. You do really want for people to know and understand actually why you've done certain things a certain way at a certain time. Because we see a lot of when that doesn't happen, where those conversations aren't taking place. And it's quite a challenging time anyway, obviously in people's lives. And then you can get into all sorts of drama if you're not clear in your will for the first place. That definitely you must be clear about it. But it's very helpful for those that are left if you have actually taken the time to talk through what you've done and why you've done it.
Because I can imagine there's that joke where there's a will, there's a lawyer or a family suing or something. Well, there's been a big shift in online wills as well. 70%, I believe, now done digitally. That's a positive, isn't it, Vanessa?